Hi, I'm Anthony Maynard, and welcome to Lincoln Park TV. Today we have with us Dr. Elizabeth Jackson and Chaplain Deanna Smith, two ladies in the community that represent voting initiatives that we're going to talk about and get some details for you on today. Okay, Dr. Jackson, could you tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us a little bit about where you're from and what got you started in this type of initiative?
Thank you, Anthony, and thank you for inviting us to be a part of sharing what God is doing on the Treasure Coast. I am the Reverend Dr. Elizabeth Jackson. I serve as the Senior Pastor of Life Changers Global Nation Ministries. I am a community organizer with Faith in Florida and several other community organizations. And so I'm very excited about this season that we're in. We're in a season where it's going to take everyone's vote to make things change for our African American communities. And so I'm very, very happy to be here to share about the Faith in Florida initiative, Souls to the Polls.
Okay. And Chaplain Deanna Smith, how about you?
Hi, I'm Chaplain Deanna Smith from the Treasure Coast. I'm also the co-pastor at Wings of Deliverance Outreach Center. I'm also the state coordinator for Black Women Roundtable, which is part of Florida Coalition of Black Civic Participation. And I also work with Faith in Florida with Dr. Jackson as a fellow during this time. And I find it's very important that we have faith leaders in our community involved in this time during the election. I also work with other organizations in the community, reaching out to our community. Also, we work with Florida Rights Restoration, also working with returning citizens.
Okay. Thank you so much for that in terms of those introductions. There were a number of organizations that were mentioned throughout the introductions, and I want to take a little time just to unpack those so that the viewing audience can get an understanding of what they are and how they function and all that you're doing. So the first one, Dr. Jackson, if you want to talk about Faith in Florida, can you share a little bit about that and what Faith in Florida does?
Yes, thank you. That's a good question. Faith in Florida is made up of congregations of all faith traditions. It is a national organization, Faith in Action, and Faith in Florida is the state name for the action. So basically, what Faith in Florida is about, the purpose of Faith in Florida's mission is to unlock the power of the people. And so we're working to make sure that congregations, no matter what their faith tradition is, that they have access in organizing around social justice issues and voting matters.
Okay, excellent. I know a number of us may have heard in Faith in Florida, but it's really good to know exactly what they do. Chaplain Smith, you're the state coordinator for the Black Women's Roundtable. I know we've heard of a number of roundtables and some of them operate here in Port St. Lucie. Could you tell us a little bit more about the Black Women's Roundtable and the type of work they do?
Yes, Black Women Roundtable is also a national organization under Florida Coalition Black Civic Participation. And we focus on being wise, being healthy. Very important that our women of color come together and take care of their families and their community. So we're always interested in health and also being wise, as I said earlier, health, wealthy, and wise. So those were some of the topics we also have. And anything that involves the women of color, we set up table. We also have celebrities come in. We also have nutritionists. We have doctors. We have different ones, a diversity of women coming in of color to share with us to help us become a better community of colored women of color.
Fantastic. That sounds like great work. I know throughout the introduction and reading up on you guys and your initiatives, there are a couple other organizations that came up. For example, I know you're doing some work also with the NAACP. Can anyone speak to how they're involved as well?
Well, yes, I serve as the Civic Engagement Chair for the Indian River County NAACP. As you know, the NAACP is one of the largest African American organizations that is still on the front line of advocating for social justice and civil rights for our communities. In addition to that, our other outstanding African American organizations are Divine Nine, which represent our fraternities and our sororities. They have a memorandum of understanding with the NAACP. So most of the work that we do in our community when it comes to social action and social justice, any initiative that's affecting our African American communities, the NAACP is the lead organization. And of course, we can always depend on the Divine Nine to collaborate and to assist us in getting out the vote, whether it be advocating for health care, advocating for students' rights, whatever the issue is, the Divine Nine members assist us. I work with them. I'm not a member of the Divine Nine. I'm a member of the Treasure Coast Florida chapter of the Links Incorporated, and we too have a memorandum of understanding with the NAACP.
And myself also work with the NAACP as the chair of WIN, which stand for Women in NAACP. And of course, the women, we work together in the organization trying to reach out to other women, also bringing families together and working with our youth and supporting the organization as a whole. Also working in our communities, trying to teach our young men so much problem. We've had so many problems with our police force, our law enforcement. So we have tried to come together and collaborate with our law enforcement and to be able to teach and bring a relationship between families and our law enforcement and the NAACP.
Oh, that's great. That's great work, and that type of work in terms of families and law enforcement and bridging the gap there is really underscored and important right now. Dr. Jackson, I heard you mention the Links of the Treasure Coast, which is an organization I've only heard about in name. Can you talk about a little bit more about what it is that they do?
Yes, the Links Incorporated was founded in 1946, and the local chapter was organized in 1976. So we're about 40 plus years old. You know, a woman never tells her age, right? And on the Treasure Coast, our chapter president is Phyllis Gillespie Esquire, and I serve as the legislative chair of National Transit Services. So my job for the Links is to make sure that we get all the legislative issues and that we get the vote out. The Links consists of the national organization consists of 16,000 phenomenal women of color, and our motto is we're friends transforming communities through service. On the local level, we provide scholarships for students who are attending HBCUs. We have award-winning programs relating to the health. Linking Together Against Syndrome X is an award-winning program, as well as another major initiative of the Links Incorporated of the Treasure Coast is advocating and educating communities on human trafficking. We also have an award-winning program as it relates to human trafficking. So anything that relates to young people, education, and service in our community, you just call on the Links Incorporated to be there to assist.
Wow, that is awesome. And thank you so much for sharing on that so that our viewership can really get an idea of what these other organizations do and how they're involved. So now all of those organizations are here and they are collaborating with you on the main topic for the interview today, which is Souls to the Polls. It's an initiative that I've heard about years prior. I'm sure that I've participated in it at some point in relation to going out with the church and voting or registering. I wanted you to really though share with our audience what Souls to the Polls is, what it does, and exactly what you guys have going on for this coming election.
Great, thank you. That's an excellent question, because Souls to the Polls is a tradition of the African American church. As you know, as African Americans, we are still fighting for voting rights in this 2020 season. And Souls to the Polls was originated in the Black church, and the purpose is to gather people of color, that after we've had a soul-stirring message by the pastor, and of course, we know that the clergy or the pastor of the clergy leaders in the African American church, they were the advocates for civil rights. They were the ones who fought for the rights of the African American communities. And so for the Souls to the Polls, we're asking that the congregations, that the leaders of the congregations in the Fort Pierce community, in the River community, as well as Martin County, we're asking the pastors on October 31st and November 1st to lead their congregations to the polls to vote or to drop off their vote by mail ballots. Following the caravan, the event will be held in Fort Pierce. It will be held at First Step Park, located at 3090 Avenue G, Fort Pierce, at the Image of Christ Resource Center. And the director of that is Pastor Hazel Holman. I am so pleased to work with this phenomenal young woman. We've had an opportunity since 2014, Pastor Deanna.
Yes.
We worked and hosted Souls to the Polls in that community since 2014, 2016, 2018, and now 2020. The St. Lucie County is one of the major voting blocks that really decides what happens in Florida. It makes a decision whether Florida is blue or red or remains purple. Mm-hmm. So it's important that we collect, that we organize with the pastors to get them to organize their congregations to get out to vote. So I'm very excited about this event. We're going to have live entertainment and as well as guest speakers. On the first day, October 31st, it's important that our millennials get out to vote. And not only is it important that they get out to vote, it's important that we teach them how to lead. So on the first day of Souls to the Polls, it will be a millennials block party. They are going to open up with a circle of prayer led by millennials. We're going to have a DJ. And I know that we're an African American church, but we're also going to have a DJ to perform. And on Sunday, we will have Praise in the Park, where congregations, over 50 congregations, will come together to praise in the park. And then following our prayer and praise in the park, we're going to caravan, or as they say, we're going to get in our cars and we're going to roll to the polls. Churches rolling to the polls.
That will be something to see. Thank you so much for explaining exactly what Souls to the Polls does. I think that's a pretty clear explanation that everybody can understand and get themselves in position to support. You talked about the start being October 31st in First Step Park, and the Image of Christ and Pastor Hazel, which is a great organization and a great leader, being involved with that. Can you touch a little bit on what you were stating about millennials and the urgency, the need, and the importance of them being involved in the process this year?
It's very important that millennials be involved in the process. I remember when the Civil Rights Act was passed, I would have been considered a millennial. And it's important that we pass the torch on to our young people. They are going to lead, and they may not get it right because we didn't get it right. And another thing, the millennials have the energy, and they are forward thinking, and they can reach other millennials. And not only that, but a lot of the civil unrest that we're facing in our community and our nation today, our millennials are the people on the front line protesting and objecting to the injustices that our people are facing. So it's important that we train them, teach them, raise them up, and then give them the space to lead. And what a better way than to have our millennials leading this this makes me feel very, very good to know that we're passing the torch.
Yes.
And that the issues that they're fighting for were similar issues that we fought for. And but not only that, but millennials bring other young people, and they're very excited, and they have the energy for today's unrest, and also the energy to get the work done.
Yeah, I can see the importance of that, and that was a great explanation and unpacking of why their involvement is so critical. You talk about the energy, the enthusiasm that they bring, and there's a large number of millennials and new registrants here in the state of Florida that'll be engaging in the voting process this fall. Now, different from years past, we have some things going on currently in society and globally that the new registrants, the millennials, will be walking into, those first-time voters, in terms of things like social distancing and mask wearing for those who are actually going to go out to the polls to vote. Can you touch on that a little bit and talk to us about what you're seeing, what you're hearing, and how people should prepare in terms of safety when it comes to the current pandemic and going out and voting?
We're going to be practicing the CDC guidelines. We will be enforcing them. We will have masks. We will be practicing social distancing, or as I say, physical spacing. We will have signs throughout the park, making sure that the attendees are spaced. Also, masks will be provided, and I want to thank Tico Studio for providing 1,000 masks, as well as Faith in Florida will be providing masks. We will be wearing masks. Everyone who will be attending or going to the park, they will be required to be masked. I have my mask right here, and it's only off because I'm speaking. We're socially spaced, so that's going to be very important. The vendors, there will be free food. And what Faith in Florida wanted to do, they always want to give back to the African American community. So the vendors, we are hiring Black businesses whom we contracted. The food will be free, but also the vendors will be practicing CDC guidelines. The food will be pre-packaged and ready to go, and we will be gloved up, masked up, and of course we will be 6 feet or more apart.
Wonderful, wonderful. It sounds like not only are you doing a lot, but you're doing so safely and trying to keep everyone else safe as you're doing it. So we thank you for that. So in closing up, I wanted to just throw a question out there for both you and Chaplain Smith. You both have been activists and involved in community engagement for a while. There are a number of organizations that you've worked with over the years. I just talked about COVID-19 and the current pandemic. I wanted to know, can you share anything, whether it's the current political climate, the voting process in general, recent changes? Is there anything that you wanted to share that you can offer to us in comparison to how things were before and the voting process that we're going through now? We've heard a lot about different changes in the laws and challenges in terms of voter suppression, and there's just been so much in the media. We wanted to get your perspective on all that we're hearing.
Well, of course, we've done a lot with phone calls, Zoom meetings, preparing our community and our local residents to prepare. We're asking them to do early voting, and also preparing their families. Our Black Women Roundtable, we have a rally going on called, the family, getting some good trouble. Mm-hmm. We're teaching our families to go out to vote together. That's very important. Mm-hmm. And also, as Dr. Jackson said earlier, the faith community, we're asking our pastors to continue to integrate with their members to also go out and vote. It's very important to us as many as possible go out and vote very, very early because of the pandemic that's going on. and you have a lot of people, our seniors, who are afraid to even go out. But we have, as Dr. Jackson said, we will be having transportation to the polls to help them out during early voting, to make sure that they get there safe, and we'll have all the material they need, masks, whatever, gloves, whatever they need, and also be able to give them a hot meal, encouraging them to come out. But we're doing very much trying to encourage each and everyone who will to vote early.
Yes, that is correct. And in addition to that, we are, in today's climate, as a pastor, I would like to say to people, Pastor Deanna and I have had this conversation, that do not be shaken, do not be moved, stay focused on our assignment.
Yes.
Because we've seen this type of climate before. We've seen this type of trouble before. And it's a little surprising that I was a part, I remember as a college student in the early 1970s, I was a journalism student. And I remember covering the student riots at the University of Florida and in other communities. I remember being hit in the head with the camera as a student journalist. And today, to see this same type, to see that we're still facing that same level of racism again is shocking, but it isn't shocking. So we're going to stay focused. We're going to teach our black kids and all of our youth about to stay focused and just, stay in the fight and fight for the things that are important to you as a mother, as a pastor, and as well as a community leader. It's important that we pray. We're going to pray, and when we get off our knees, we're going to fight.
Right.
We're going to fight, and we're going to advocate. And not only that, but lastly, the one thing I would like to say, Pastor Deanna and I, at this season, we understand the importance of policy change. We're going to let our youth protest. They have the energy. But we know that we must be present in the room where the decisions are being made. And then this election, whomever came to our community, whomever we vote for, we're going to hold them accountable for the policies that they promised to our African American community. So it's important that we be at the table. And we are at the table. Pastor Deanna, we are there in the rooms with the policymakers, holding them accountable for what they have promised our African American communities. I often say, don't wait until election time to come into our communities. If you come, make sure you leave resources. And then after election, we can't find you. Oh yeah, we know we know your address.
Yes.
You see, and so that's the message. We're telling our young people to hold these political leaders, spiritual leaders, business leaders accountable if they get your vote.
Okay. Well, I totally agree with you that right now we have a political climate that can be disappointing, in a word, for many in the African American community. But I am thankful and I am hopeful because we have some champions out there like you, Dr. Jackson, and you, Chaplain Smith, who are motivating us, giving us accurate information, and helping to get us out to vote. We thank you so much for joining us on Lincoln Park TV here with Tico Studios, and we will be out there in support with you to push this initiative forward. Thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you very much.